Shalom to each and every one of you, and for those of you that are with us, thank you for being here. Uh, Pretty amazing all the things going on, so chaotic and yet so bright. So welcome to you. I hope that you are blessed. I hope that you have been experiencing some of the truths. There's been really a lot of truth that has been shared that I'm watching pop up in all kinds of ways, and it's certainly not always easy to deal with. Uh, we're going to find out tonight some things like that as well. I hope that you will be blessed. I don't know about anyone else, but my personal opinion is, for the first time in my life, I'm starting to really meet the true Yeshua. And many thoughts that I had in Christianity, and sometimes I spoke those things even, but nobody really knew what I was saying, are really jumping out now. This is, I don't know about for you guys, but this has been really, really amazing. It definitely pulls the throttle out of the hand of the Christian Jesus and puts it in the hand of this guy who was a mystic. And so as we continue on, which we shall do, I hope you'll be blessed. I hope you'll see something that ignites a desire in you to be maybe more like he was. And we all live in our own lives, and we all have pictures of what that means and what that doesn't mean, and so it's vitally important. It is up to us to first seek and then find. And so we'll come together tonight, and we will say to you, Namaste. All right. Well, we left off last week, and I just am going to flip backwards, and we'll start. There was a question asked. Dolores asked a question wherein a vision of Jesus' death. This chapter has been really, probably of all of them so far, has been the most profound. And so we were going through the discourse of Dolores asking Abigail questions about how it was going to work. She had a vision of him dying. He said, yes, your vision is right. And so Dolores asked, this was the last question. Of course, we always think that some diseases can't be avoided. He doesn't believe this way. So that's the question Dolores posed to her. And Abigail's response is, no, I say, though, that one must be a believer in the source within one's being. And those may be simple little words, friends, but those words are really huge. There's just so much that's coming out, and I'm very thankful that the Creator is bringing and exposing this stuff, but it really is enough to take your breath away. As you gain some salt and some knowledge and perspective and those kind of things, it's just absolutely overwhelming that how slow that creation is with us, the universe is with us, because it takes us so long to get things sometimes under control, and I guess to get them in our spirit is what I'm kind of trying to say. And so she says they must believe in the source within one's being. Well, stop and think why you haven't really ever seen the Bible function, maybe for you in your lifetime. And there are many, many really devout people, but the problem now that's starting to manifest, along with many others, is it's not enough to have a belief. It matters most what that belief is in. And so if you have the strongest faith in the world and yet your faith is in the wrong thing, then you're still not on the road or the journey that we're supposed to be looking for during the course of this lifetime. And so she said that is one's God center. That is one's heart center. The only way that some of these things are going to ever manifest in our life is when we come to that place. And maybe some of you have already started experiencing some little twinges of things in your life. Maybe right now, today is a thing going on in the cosmos, and I've watched it cause different reactions depending on what kind of person it is, and most don't know it's going on, so they're just going along as they always do. And so what was Paul talking about when he said, the Christ in you, the hope of glory? Was he saying that somehow that Jesus is to come inside of you? Well, if Jesus was a God, it would certainly be strange, because he's probably the only God that would have ever been required to be inside of you. Usually a God is worshipped by the servants, and he's certainly not inside of anyone. He's over everyone. And so the one thing that we must believe in is that source is within us. So for many of us coming out of Christianity, then, for you to believe that you are all of these things that I've been trying to encourage and expose to you, for you to believe that is fundamental to really getting anything from source. And there's many things like this. They're kind of hard to really understand because they're so foreign from us. This is not a static relationship that you go to church and you say a few words and do a few rituals and then you go home. It's not that at all. This is constant. This is you. It really is such a weird thing to say that you are the one that controls everything. And so if you don't know you're controlling it, it's a pretty good bet that most of the time you're not going to do a very good job of it. I don't mean that against any of us as failures. It's just simply if you don't know you're driving the car, you might have a wreck. And so, and then the other piece, that this whole concept of God in us, what does that really mean? I mean, if you would, it's vitally important that we come to clarity and understanding, and I'm learning that none of this comes, I can sit here and I will continue as long as Source keeps me here, but I can come here and I can't teach you anything. I can't teach you how to change who you are as a person. You can only learn that because of you. I can give you things that I've seen. I can give you things and share things and go find resources from people. But when it's all said and done, friends, I know lots of people who have changed very little. They believe they've changed in some cases. In some cases, they don't even care if they've changed. But on the other side of it, if you are the one who recognized the responsibility, which is kind of rare to begin with, you're a special person if that is you, and the responsibility, and then I'll also say the need. Why is it so important that I change? Well, I hate to say this, but the sheer fact that you have to ask that question may be a good indicator to you that you need to. And so, what we are to believe in, that its source is within one's being, that God is in us, and that it is one's heart center. So if one lives without fear, one has placed a great healing protection throughout one's physical being. And I don't know about you, the more that I view this, the more that it gets exposed. And that's a good thing and that's a bad thing, because until you actually see something that's wrong with you, you're never going to change it. But just because you saw it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to change it either. So, Dolores Cannon, a brother sent me a clip, and I've watched literally thousands of Dolores Cannon's clips of teachings and words that she said. And, she says the exact same, thing. I've been doing a little bit of research on Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce said that there are going to be people which I believe is where we're at. We're in this time that every ancient sage has talked about was going to happen. What you've seen in the last couple of days go on around the world with peace and the message that you hear ringing out and the changes, friends, if you take that as just something that's very lightly, I'm very sad for you, but you haven't found the road yet. And so, if one lives without fear, one has placed a great healing protection throughout one's physical being. I watched a teaching about healing and physical maladies in our bodies, that most of them are caused by our minds. And I don't know exactly where the limits of that are, but I am going to tell you, it's funny because this has been going on for me personally for a few weeks. And tonight there's some pieces that I believe will fundamentally give answers. And many people are not going to like them because it doesn't point at anyone except you. Now, I don't know that anybody that I know believes that they're the reason that they're sick, that they're the reason that they have disease, that they're the reason that their body's hurt. Most people will not, they will immediately reject that. But they might also reject that they made every decision about what their life is and approved it, which has really been and we're going to look at some of these over the next future here. Wow, the things that are being revealed, folks, there's nothing about this life that's accidental. Nothing. And so as we begin to look at those things, hopefully you will take them, and because they're all internal things. The problem is none of this is anything except what you are inside. And so if one lives without fear, one has placed a great healing protection throughout one's physical being and other layers of protection around the human person. Now ponder that statement for a minute. I'm going to read it again. If a person lives without fear, one has placed a great healing protection throughout one's physical being, so in every part of your physical body, and other layers of protection around your human person. If you let fear or darkness enter your being, you open up a space that will allow ailments to grow. And so in many cases, and this is another piece there that just is explosive, every one of these things are like almost lifetime journeys. But, well, I just need to read you. There's some really profound things that Source has been bringing to me prior to getting here. So I'm like just totally enamored by what we're going to read tonight. It's crazy huge. What a blessing. But on the other side, it's kind of hard sometimes to see the blessing when the finger, is doing the whole Blake Shelton thing. And so, if you let fear or darkness enter your being, what does that mean? How do you stop fear and darkness from entering your being? And what about when you lived 50 years in fear and darkness before you ever even found out this piece of knowledge that Christianity so kindly hid from you. But if you let fear and darkness enter your being, you open up a space that will allow ailments to grow inside of you. One can control any disease of the mind or body. We were taught that Jesus did supernatural miracles, and here it is, his message is that we can do them. And then they kept a few of those things because they knew most people were too stupid to figure it out. When they kept the statement that Yeshua said, when he said, these things that I do in greater you will do because I go to the Father. That wasn't supernatural. He's going to go to the Father and something's going to happen. He says, when I get out of here and y'all quit relying on me and you start doing what I'm teaching you for yourself, you'll do greater things than I do. I'd never had that understanding until recently, and it's totally mind-boggling. Had nothing to do with him and had nothing to do with him somewhere doing some woo-woo magic healing nonsense. In fact, you're going to find that that's true here very shortly. And so Dolores asked her, that is a profound statement. One can control any disease of the mind or body. And many of you will hear that and you will shake your head no, even if you don't shake your head no. And I'm sorrowful, friend, the fact that your words are a no is in fact what your reality is. And so she says, do you think this is one of the ways he is able to heal people? So this whole thing inside of us, is that how Yeshua is capable of doing the healings that he did? Listen to this response. She says, yes, for those people that have come to him and asked to be healed have created a healing path in their own hearts. That's why he said, when you pray, if you believe. Oftentimes, as a Christian pastor in Austin for near 20 years, I prayed for people every week, sometimes the same thing for years. And I said the words, but the words never got through. Why didn't you get your healing? It's really hard, and I have done this and felt horrible because I hurt the person, but I mean, there comes a point when you have to ask, am I going to keep lying to this person, or am I going to tell them the truth that's going to hurt them? And so she says, for those people that have come to him and asked to be healed have created a healing path in their own hearts and minds. Does anybody see the warning light coming on? It is just connecting with his energy. Wow. So when we do the same and then we connect, we know, and I've shared this with you guys, that there is an amplification that goes on of spirit energy when people, but there again, it's another statement out of the Bible. The Bible says that it is people of like precious faith who we are to invest and put and spend our time with, because if we are not functioning with people of faith, being in faith, we will never get anything. And that's where most people live. You really don't understand how important the people that Source has put into your life really are. Seldom is it accidental, and it's never coincidental. And you may not even be able to believe that. You may think that coincidence goes on. Well, it's just a coincidence. Well, friends, if the universe is just a coincidence, then anything could happen at any time. And the truth is that's not the truth. So once again, my belief system is based on a lie. So she says, yes, for those people that have come to him and asked to be healed, have created a healing path in their own hearts and minds. It is connecting with his energy because they have already set up their belief of trust. That's why it's so important, the people that Source puts into your life. Then they have eliminated the fear and the darkness which enables them to accept healing. So you get a concept that as long as fear exists inside of you, there's no room for you to be healed. Wow. That's tragic on one level. Because I can tell you that, and anyone who's suffering with that malady, I haven't really helped you at all, because you still have all of the work to do, and it's all about you, not about me, not about somebody else, not about Yeshua. Were there people Yeshua prayed for that did not get healed, which Christianity took out of the Bible? And the answer is unequivocally yes. There were people who did not believe and they did not get healed. The Bible just doesn't want you to know that. And that's why so many lost prayers, so many empty prayers that never afforded a thing. And so they had already set up their belief of trust. Then they have eliminated the fear and the darkness, which enables them to accept the healing. So even though the Nazarene has the power to heal, the person who is ailing has to have within himself his own power to release his fears and the disease of his flesh. So you must release your fear, and you also have to release that disease. Now, how many of you would be willing to admit that you are holding on to your disease, and that's why it won't leave you? Wow. I mean, I don't know about y'all guys, but this stuff is just too real, because it's everywhere. So Ken, as Dolores and Edgar Casey and all the other masters that have lived on the earth will tell you, that not everyone will ever make this journey, friends. There's many people that you know that will never make this journey. When the separation that is coming comes, there will be a tear in the fabric and the two timelines. I've heard that hundreds of times from different speakers, all the way past Yeshua, through Yeshua, and all the way into modern people who are teaching the exact same message. It is the most ancient message that there is. So even though the Nazarene has power to heal, the person who is ailing has to have within themselves their own power to release his fears and the disease of his flesh. Or if they are not meant to be healed, and here's a piece that maybe you haven't considered, or continue on with this life, they will find it a very easy transition to ascend in true peace and love, and they will go on to the next existence. So here's the difference. Do you see the difference in concept of, instead of dying, you are just simply going to another existence? That in itself is pretty profound. Now, how many people do you think that live in fear of dying, when only to find out that all dying means is that you're going to another existence? That's pretty huge. But what it does for you is it sows seed, because you don't know that, and it sows seed of fear. How many of you breathed a sigh of relief when I told you that it wasn't what we've been told in Christianity? Many people I've talked to have said, wow, that was mind-boggling. I was worried about going to hell and not worried a bit about living my life here. Do you understand that? This isn't any easier than keeping rules are. And in some ways, it's actually harder. The difference is it's not up to anyone else now to save you. It's up to you to save yourself. And if you're not interested in saving yourself, then you will go through continued suffering and you will come again. And you will maybe go through continued suffering and come again. I would like, because I believe, but at the same time, if that's what's necessary to learn all that I need to learn, then I want, even that I want to do. And that's kind of where she's leading now. And so, or if they are not meant to be healed, that's a really strange concept to people. Do you realize there are people that were never meant to be healed? They're going to live with their maladies, and even if they possessed all the faith in the world and they believed in all of those things, they're never going to find that. Because really, to be quite honest with you, the healing of your body is on the bottom of the rung of important things that you should do while you're in this incarnation. Okay? Once again, that's a paradigm shift from where we're brainwashed from our childhood about what is important. And so Dolores asked, can he heal someone that doesn't want to be healed, or if they don't know about it? Abigail says, I search my past, and she chuckles, I see that he will heal the ailing bird and the ailing animal. He is very much aware of those people who are not of truth and are testing him. Be really careful right here. For he exposes them. All of a sudden, not the nice Jesus who forgives everybody. In fact, he exposes them. But the people who come in truth, he can and will heal. Unless there is some reason holding back the healing. And if there is, he will let them know that. Very akin to what you see with psychic readings, very akin to what you see if you speak to a spiritual medium and they tell you things and you don't know the things and you go, oh, I didn't know that about myself. And so then Dolores asked, has it happened that people have tried to test him? And Abigail says, oh yes, he's been tested many times on many occasions. Even when he went underground, there were infiltrators every now and then, for he is of such purity and sensitivity that the tests are very obvious to him. And so I will also say to you, while maybe not at the level yet that Yeshua was, there are people probably in your life that are on that journey as well and have a purpose of healing, and yet they see what you can't see yourself. That's why I used the concept when I said to you that you can't see what everybody else sees about you. You have a totally different picture about what you are, how you view you, what you are in space and time, and yet maybe it's not so true with everybody else looking at you instead of looking from in you. Something that we have to constantly deal with. And many people never will. Please, you have to understand, there's always the other end of this. For all the things that you should do, there's the opposite end of all of the things that you don't or won't do. And so you get to determine what that mix is, but it's there. All of a sudden, the whole picture of enlightenment is starting to come out, and it has nothing to do with all of the stuff that people are trying to sell. They're really nothing but modern day materialists teaching another false dogma. They call them New Age. Has it happened that people have tried to test him? And she says yes. He has been tested many times on many occasions. Even when he went underground, there were infiltrators every now and then, but he is of such purity and sensitivity that the tests are very obvious to him. And so if you are around somebody who's gifted and you have a picture and they tell you a different picture, and then you want to argue with them and then they just quit talking, maybe you'll begin to now have an insight as to why they're not interested in wasting words about it. Because no matter how many times they tell you, you're never going to see it. Could you give me an example of one that you were a witness to? Abigail says, there was a soldier I remember in Jerusalem, and he paid a beggar to lie about a healing. I saw the Nazarene pick out this fraud, and he even exposed the soldier. What would the soldier have gained from something like that, Dolores asked, and Abigail says the soldier wanted to turn people against him. And I woefully fear that even if people, because sometimes it will be people close to you that are doing you the most damage by their words, actions, behaviors, because they're associated with you. The people were just beginning to listen to him, for the Romans were very threatened by his, she couldn't find the word. Dolores says abilities. Abigail says abilities. But the populace was beginning to listen. Not that different than where we are right now. Then the soldier paid the beggar to pretend he had been healed or what? Abigail says to say that he had been healed, but an infection had come back. He had a festering wound. That is what I remember. He stood up before the crowd and he showed this festering wound, which he told them had been healed by this man they called Jesus, and this is what had happened to the wound. But the crowd was told the whole story by the Nazarene, and he even pointed out the soldier. The crowd turned on the soldier and started throwing stones, but this upset the Nazarene very much. And there was another incident where a blind man was brought to him, and Jesus was not able to cure him. He was able to point out to the man, the crowds, and the people who were trying to cause problems, the reasons why this man would not regain his sight. What do you think was the gate or the block keeping this man from being healed? You might be really surprised. You know, if we knew the truth and if we knew how to function in the metaphysical realm, friends, if things from our past life can come into this life and affect us, everything that you do while you're in this life also affects you. Many of you hurt yourself horribly when you were young out of ignorance and rebellion, and there's a million different things that people do. And then through the rest of your life, you hurt and suffer for that. And it is a true statement that you're the one that did it. That doesn't often give us comfort, but at some point when I feel comfortable that the people that I might accidentally end up talking to have come to some form of enlightenment, then I probably will not say that as often because everyone will know. But right now, I don't know how many people do know. And so, Yeshua exposes. Why? Because he has insight. Why? Because he listens to higher self. He was an intuit. When you meet someone that tells you there's something going on and I may not necessarily know what it is, but there's something that's not right, you can almost always be guaranteed what they're telling you is absolutely correct. And so Dolores then asked, what were the reasons? This might shock you. I would desire, hopefully, that you will take this and you will look at yourself instead of just thinking it's a story. Because the metaphysical principle of this is functioning in every one of us every single day, whether you believe it is or isn't. So let's see what it is, and then you'll know. There were things he had done in his life, but also he was given blindness as a teacher. See, I shared on Saturday, and I hope that for you it is for me. It's now becoming an everyday thing multiple times, and I hope that it becomes even more prominent. What is the test, and what do I need to see out of this? What do I need to clean from this? What do I need to glean from that bad situation I just encountered? What do I need to glean? And so she said there are things he had done in his life, but also he was given blindness as a teacher. He was given blindness so he would turn inward. Understand, he has a choice to choose or not do that. Many will never turn inside of themselves. They will continue to live the lie that they have concocted their reality of who they are. The purpose is always for you to turn inside, friend. It's never for you to turn outside. The purpose is for you to look inside of who you really are, that you may not in many cases even know the answer to that question. And so if you're on a journey of enlightenment, one of the first things that you must come to terms with is, who am I? And the only way you'll find out who you really are is by going inside. That's why meditation and contemplation and all of those things open doors to your mind for the exchange of energy, which is, you could call knowledge, wisdom. And so this guy has done some things that weren't so good in his life. And the teacher that was assigned to him was blindness. You know what that means to us, right? There's probably things in every one of our life that we've cried out 1,000,000 times to God about, and it ain't ever changed. And it may very well never change. Would it not be better, if that is the case, and if that's how the spirit universe functions, would it not be better for us to know that, so that we didn't waste 20 years praying to a false god to heal us of something and it never manifests? To be honest with you, the Bible has pushed more people away than it's ever drawn, because people get drawn to the stories which were concocted to draw people, and then they never get the message that's in the words, which is kind of what we're doing right now. The true Jesus, if you were. What is the true gospel message? The true gospel message is that you are God and you are light, and it is within your power to have an amazing life, but it's totally up to you. You don't hear that, that message is not taught in Christianity. In Christianity, Jesus did it all on the cross. And so, he says, he was given blindness so he would turn inward and heal the darkness and the fear. Remember, the darkness and the fear fills up the place so that there can be no true faith within, and let his light come through. Do you see how repetitious this is, folks? One of the major pieces of our journey every incarnation is to go from wherever we start to coming to a point of, I want to say, elevation, a point of arising, so that you, in this incarnation, let your light shine. That silly little song is one of the most profound spiritual lessons that ever existed. It's anything but a silly little children's song. And those people who get the spirit of that inside of them have a chance of living an amazing life. And I'm not talking about lots of money and nice cars and all the women and, I'm not talking about all of that crap. I'm talking about none of that has anything to do with living an amazing life. And so, for sight does not give one, I'm sorry, let me go back, because there's a line here that he was given blindness so he would turn inward and heal the darkness and the fear within, and let the light come through so he could live in truth. Why? Because until the light comes through, you're living a lie. You're still trying to be the person that your mama, daddy, school teacher, political system told you, and then your own mind on top of that told you that you were. It's like when you hear people talk and they try to paint themselves as being something big or something bad, you know. And you hear this all the time. Go listen to Jasmine Crockett's stuff. You'll see that all that she is doing is destroying herself, because that she speaks is that which she is. Wow. That's huge. And so, sight doesn't give us clear vision. This guy had done some horrendous things in his earlier years, and the blindness was caused in an accident. So he was spared his life. But this man who was going to try to make the Nazarene look like a fraud was filled with such love and understanding that he accepted his blindness, and there was something within him that was healed to cause him to accept his life and be of service. I think there's a huge amount of salt. When Yeshua says your bread ain't no good if it ain't got salt, friend, that was some salted bread right there. It was full of wisdom. Think about how we might put that of ourselves. It really kind of lays out once again for us the purpose of life. All the things that we thought the purpose of life was for are incorrect. All of them. And certainly at the level at which our society has imposed them on us. The purpose for us being here is to find our light and then share our light. And that really is the main reason we're all here. That is the truest form of enlightenment. And so, being in his presence caused this guy who was trying to run a scam on Yeshua in the spirit realm, silly thing to do, and the power of Yeshua, because of the fullness of his heart, caused the guy to be so moved with love and compassion that he said, I don't even care if I'm blind. Finding this was worth that. Wow. You talk about life-changing. When somebody finally gets that breakthrough moment, I can't imagine, I'm sure I will see many of them before I leave this earth, but I can't imagine anything that would be more beautiful. That's what we would have loved to have seen in church, is that people come in and the energy and the healing that can come when they finally did come to a place of actually being willing to take responsibility for their self, their behaviors, their mouth, their bad actions. And the problem is we all have that. Just differently from person to person, but we all got it. Whether you say the words, some people are willing to say the words and other people don't say the words. You understand that it's the thought. And so, when Yeshua comes in his presence, even though he's going to do him, trying to hurt him or make him look bad, all of a sudden, the love that was in Yeshua, there's a flashing light, friend. And understanding that he accepted his blindness, there was something within him that was healed. The thing that needed to be healed was not his eyes. The thing that needs to be healed is not your body. The thing that needs to be healed is your heart. That's why last Saturday we saw all the list of all of the things, and they're almost in everybody that I know is dealing with those. Some are dealing with almost all of them. Like pettiness and all of that stuff. I used to tell people, well, that's really petty. They always wanted to argue that I was wrong, but the truth is I was right, or I wouldn't have said it. And so, how does the crowd react at these times when he can't heal someone? Do they become angry if he can't always do these things? And Abigail says, I love this girl. I love her. She was an amazing person back there. This is her response. If a healing cannot take place, there is a reason given. And I would say it is so acceptable that it really cannot even be questioned, because it is filled with such truth. But since the Romans and the Jews of the temple live in such fear of him, he is chosen to be of service in these various villages where he is accepted and needed and wanted. How many times have we desired to put ourselves somewhere, and yet what we felt there was those things she just didn't existed? Stop and think about it. Then he tries to stay away from Jerusalem, Dolores asks. Is that what you mean? To distance himself from those people? And Abigail answers yes, because it hinders his progress. And so there is a huge lesson for you there, dear friend, if your ears are open. There is a huge lesson there. If Yeshua the Ascended Master was affected by the people around him, and this does pop up metaphysically in the Bible, in the New Testament, it says Yeshua went into a town, and because there was no faith, he did no great healings there. Why did he not do them? Because the thing that needs to be present is true faith in source and source in you. And so Dolores says, have you ever seen him do anything else besides the healings that was different or out of the ordinary? And then she says, I was thinking of other miracles mentioned in the Bible. And she paused as though thinking. So Dolores says, or if you have not seen it personally, have you heard stories of things he had done that the ordinary person couldn't do? And Abigail says, I have seen the illuminations from his hands. I have seen him heal people's very souls, their hearts. I have seen him survive things that people might not normally survive. So that's a little clue to you for those of you that might be wondering about how accurate the picture of the cross really was. You'll never get that. You can't put those two together anywhere else. This is the only corroborating evidence we have that there may have been something amiss to the story in the Bible about the crucifixion. And so Dolores asks, do you have an example of something like that? Abigail gives a deep sigh. I know he was taken by the Roman soldiers beneath the courts and tortured. I know he was placed in a cart that was not big enough for a man to survive in, and he was thrown over the ravine, and he survived. I hesitate in talking about this because since those times he has been protected in various villages. I've seen him survive physical things, but the miracles have been in the healing and the food, in finding enough to care for people's needs. Dolores asks, why did the soldiers do that to him? Abigail says they were trying to find various ways to destroy him because he was gaining too much power. He was beginning to gain many followers who were questioning the Romans' law and the equality and fairness of life under them. They were gaining strength and talking of rebelling, and for this is not how you treat your fellow man. So the soldiers were trying to destroy the Nazarene and make it appear that others had done it. And Dolores says, did they do this without any authority? And Abigail says they had authority. They had their king's authority, sadly, but they will succeed. They will find enough dark people, and they will succeed. So Dolores says, but at that time, did they arrest him? You said they tortured him. I'm curious about what happened. And Abigail says, as though I had brought her attention back to the other story, she had been thinking of the future event. Oh yes, they took him without causing a scene. It appeared to be a friendly ploy. but it was not a matter of but it was a matter of kidnap. There are mazes and cellars under the courts, and they took him there and threatened him and tortured him. They thought this would be enough, and when they found out he would not succumb, then they started infiltrating the streets and getting anyone they could to find to do their deeds. There are many who can be paid off. Many poor Roman followers were very eager to do the bidding of the soldiers. So Dolores says, then you said after they tortured him, they put him in a small cart. Abigail responds, yes, a crate, a box, and they rolled him off a ravine, feeling surely he would die. It would kill him, and it did not. So now they continue to infiltrate the streets and pay people to bring down his reputation, to make him seem what he is not, for there are many of those who can be bought off and turn in their own kind too. And they will, of course, blame it on the people of the temple. The Nazarene chose to walk his own path because he found those within the temple to be as cruel and manipulative as within the Roman courts. So Dolores says, I would think that after he survived going off into the ravine that the Romans would have reacted differently. And Abigail says the Romans were filled with more fear because they know these private villages are forming. His followers are growing. Every time he has a healing, every time something happens, or a person who had a dark personality has changed. That's just so you know, I have talked some about shadow work and the devil and you. I'd like for you to give really good heed to this line because it actually validates. I've actually validated many things that I've been teaching, though I've never had this before, this setting. But look at that statement. Or a person who had a dark personality. What do you think that is? A dark personality is you are ruled by your shadow. That is the demon inside of you. When he casts demons out of people, it says in multiple of the situations, the madman at Gadara, it says of him, and he was in his right mind. Go read it. It says that for a reason. When you look at what's going on in our society, and in his first term, Donald Trump said that one of the worst things that we have going on in America is the mental illness. We are becoming a people that are demon possessed because the mind is where the demon lives, inside of you. All of it. I mean, every bit of it comes from what's in you. And so every time he has a healing, every time something happens, or a person who had a dark personality has changed, just like the blind man, it creates more believers. If he knows someone from the Romans is going to try to mistreat him, he will confront them with this. He is made aware of who has turned on him. He went even though he was aware of the kidnap because he thought he might be able to heal within the hierarchy of the government. So he has chosen to allow his physical being to go through what it must for his own lessons on this earth. And I'm going to tell you what will happen for you. It already has in a way for me. If there is no coincidences, then the sicknesses that you have are not accidental. I don't know if you see the ramifications here. And I know that some of you may not understand totally the depth of what I'm saying, but if you really understood all that life is really about and why we're even here, and if you really understood all the decisions that you made prior to coming in, it would totally change how we live our human journey. Because everything that we think is bad, we chose. You said, I have a need for this lesson, and the only way that I will learn that lesson is if I suffer. I can show that metaphysically to you. It would take me hours, but I promise you that is coming out more and more and more and more. When I say to you, if you really ever get the revelation that all of the bad things that happen to you are for you, by you, it changes how you look at many things. And so every time he has a healing, every time something happens, or a person who had a dark personality is changed, just like the blind man, it creates more believers. If he knows someone from the Romans is going to try to mistreat him, he will confront them with this. He is made aware of who has turned on him. He went, even though he was aware of the kidnap, because he thought he might be able to heal within the hierarchy of the government, so he has chosen to allow his physical being to go through what it must go through for his own lessons on this earth. And if Yeshua was what he is, and he is, that was his belief system. And if you have any other belief system than that one, then it is false. Dolores, he did that for a reason then, because he knew it was going to happen. I would think that after seeing him survive, the Romans would realize he wasn't an ordinary human being. Abigail says, this was more apparent to them. So they sped up their intervention on the streets. They knew that unless they turned the masses against him, they would not survive. So it wasn't that they didn't know. The fact that they did know is why they increased their activity. The fact that what is going on in our government, they did know. The dark forces, the dark personalities of our reality of the United States of America, the dark personalities know. It's not that they're ignorant, even though they do ignorant things that hurt us and we can't understand why. They know. The problem is they do know. They know that if we become light as we are supposed to be, all of their darkness will be cast aside. They know that. When you ask yourself, how could that guy have given away that much of our money for all of this horrible stuff that they gave it away for? They did know. They did it on purpose. Wow. I'm sorry, I got a little emotional, didn't I? How amazing. I don't know if you're getting it. I'm just amazed. It almost makes me feel like I have to visit every day just to find out who I am today. It's crazy. Some of these truths they're just turning on, and they're beautiful. They're amazing. It makes you look at everything differently. Okay, well if I'm supposed to go through this, I guess I kind of need to go through it and learn the lesson, don't I? And so it's not that they don't know. The darkness knows, and they're scared of the light. And so anyway, Dolores has asked the question, so is that why he doesn't go to Jerusalem? Just so that you know, Yeshua was seldom in Jerusalem because of this evilness. And so I hope you guys got, that was really a major truth stuff popping out right there, man. There's snippets of truth that are coming out. They're flying like, I don't know, flying like Star Wars truth coming out. And so I hope that you'll take the time to think deep, and I hope that you maybe take some time and close your eyes and clear your mind, and maybe one day introduce yourself to yourself. It's really kind of a revelation when you find out who you really are. It'll surprise you. That guy found out who he really was. And so, doesn't mean you're superhuman, doesn't mean you don't have any emotions, doesn't mean you know everything, doesn't mean any of those things. Because really the only thing you really need to know is you, and then you possess everything. So think about that for the rest of the week. So, shalom and peace to each and every one of you. I hope you're blessed. I hope you're experiencing a move in your life, and for the most benevolent outcome, I would say. And so we come together with you, and we say Namaste.